All right, we are back here on the podcast talking New York Giant football here. They had a disappointing season, but they're still covering the Giants over at Giant Insider, newspaper and podcast, and great friend of the podcast, Jerry Foley's back with us. Jerry, how are you?
Sure, I've been better, Mike. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing all right myself. I got to say, though, I mean, like, we talked a lot about this team over the years, and after last year, did you even remotely consider the possibility that this season could go this bad?
I would have expected a Super Bowl before I would have expected this. I just thought they had turned the corner as a franchise from a coaching, talent perspective, all of it. This has just been an absolute nightmare, and there's 7 weeks to go, and it is just going. We have not hit the low point yet. I mean, everybody thinks they hit the low point. We have not hit the low point yet. I think it's going to be one of the Eagle games where it's the low point, but it could be a different week. Who the hell knows, man? This has been a nightmare that we did not see coming.
Certainly hasn't been. Obviously, there have been a lot of things that have gone wrong, whether it's the injuries, whether it's turnovers, coaching, you name it here. So, like, in your opinion, you guys have been watching, like, every play of the Giants this year. So, like, what would you identify, you'd say, is the single biggest point of failure with this year's Giants?
Oh, man, the single biggest point. I mean, it started with injuries. Look, the most valuable player on the team is obviously Andrew Thomas, and I don't know how anyone else can argue that it could be another player. Without him, this offense is absolutely unwatchable. Now, Barkley's valuable, Jones is obviously valuable, but without Andrew Thomas, that line cannot function. And because of it, they had no running game, and Jones, basically got killed over it. So I think it started with the Andrew Thomas injury, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So the biggest issue is injuries, but now you're starting to see some other issues with, to be honest, with coaching that has to be called into question. Some weird things, but I don't want to say like lack of overall talent because that's easy, but I mean, we went into the season thinking we were pretty good, and it improved on last year. So I just say it just started with that, and it just you can go a number of places from there, man.
Yeah, I remember week one when it happened, when he got hurt, and then for some reason Brian Dable kept Andrew Thomas out there into the fourth quarter of a game where the game blown out. I feel like that extended this injury far worse than it should have been.
Well, that's one of the weird things Dable's done this year, right? Like, look, he's coming back, right? And I think people who want to fire him are a little nuts. Like, you can't forget what he did last year, right? He turned the organization around. Now, has he made mistakes this year? Absolutely. Like keeping Thomas in, keeping Jones in that first week when there's no chance of victory. Calling timeout this week after the 2-minute warning when you're down 49-10. Like, how much do you want Sterling Shepard to score? Leaving Barkley in. Like, he's just done weird personnel things where it's almost like this Joe Judge attitude, like, well, we don't give up until the final whistle. But, it's just he's made some strange decisions. Now, I'm not blaming everything on Dable. I mean, that'd be stupid. But he has coached a little differently this year, in my opinion. I mean, like, I should say some of the decisions he's made have been haven't made much sense to me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought Dable up. I was getting the next question here because obviously year one, everything he seems to touch turns to gold. Because starts in week one when they go for the 2 against Tennessee. They get the win, sets the momentum for the whole year. He wins Coach of the Year. They win a playoff game. This year, I feel like it's sort of like Buck Showalter-esque with the Mets, what happened, where like he's the Coach of the Year and all of a sudden like, he can't do anything right. And I don't think he's going to follow Buck and be out of a job. But like, what's the big difference from year one to year two with Dable, in your opinion?
What's the biggest difference with Dable? I mean, Daniel Jones regressed, right? Like, look, it's not just the coaching. I mean, when Daniel Jones was healthy, he just wasn't playing well, right? And I know the line's not good. You sit there and say he has no chance, but there's other quarterbacks that rise above it, right? The Seattle game, when he could make a play, he threw a 102-yard interception, right, for a touchdown and the rookie said, we know that Jones tends to stare down as number one receiver, or his first option, I should say. I think Jones' regression was contributed to this. I think injuries, offensive play calling has been weird at best and terrible at worst. So I think Dable's going to have to make some decisions with his coordinators, and I'm not advocating for mass firings, but he's going to have to make changes, offensive, defensive, and or special teams, like one of those three, or maybe all three. And position coaching. He's got to take a serious look at that. So, I mean, the biggest difference to me, we got. It seems like we had injuries to key guys, and Jones, even when he was healthy, was not playing as well as he was last year.
Yeah, that's for sure here. And obviously, you brought the coaching situation up here. I do want to mention here, like, what we saw on Sunday on the sideline here, because obviously 49-17 is what it is. They were outclassed as our third-string quarterback. You expect a game to maybe not be that bad for them to lose, but I don't think what you wanted to see if you're a Giant fan is like all the blow-ups on the sideline, whether it's Daboll and Wink Martindale having the heated conversation, Daboll and Saquon, the receivers and the receiver coach. Like, what did you take away from seeing those like meltdowns on the sideline?
I'm in a weird way, I'm kind of glad that they care. I don't care as much from the players. Wink and Daboll kind of talking. I don't know what to make of it, to be honest with you. But if I'm a fan, I'm happy that some players like Darius Slayton and Shepard are talking and Saquon. Like, I want that. I want there to be anger, because I got to be honest with you, I have never seen such ambivalence from the Giant fan base as I have this year. I mean, I have friends of mine who are lifelong lunatic fans who now say, my Sundays are freed up, which was unheard of. And coming off of a playoff year, that's crazy. So I didn't care as much about what the players were doing. I mean, I wasn't embarrassed by it. I was more embarrassed by the product on the field, and the 49-17 and Dallas just continuing to throw the ball down the field, and we just can't stop it. So coach to coach is one thing, but the players kind of showing emotion, it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously the biggest nightmare of his year for the Giants, besides the record, is the fact that they gave Daniel Jones all this money. He's gotten hurt twice. His neck is injury again. Now he tears his ACL. He's out for the year here. And we know that he only has one more year guaranteed money left in that contract. So considering the injuries, considering the regression, is it safe to say this is the last we've seen of Daniel Jones being the future of the Giants as the franchise quarterback?
Yeah, because look, they're going to have the first or second pick probably. Maybe the first, if Carolina can win a game or two. I mean, a lot of this is going to come down to the Giants-Patriots game, I think, in 3 weeks, or 2 weeks, whenever it is. But, Thanksgiving weekend. But I cannot see a situation where the Giants don't take a quarterback early. Even if they don't have the first or second, they'll probably try and trade up for one. Or, I don't want to get into too much speculation on the draft. I don't know what Shane is thinking, but if Caleb Williams or Drake May are within striking distance, you got to make your move. Because, look, aside from Jones, what I think was regressing, you have the ACL, but you have 2 neck injuries now. Like, to me, that's the most serious part of why you should move on, because you're talking neck. You're not talking ACL is one thing. If you tore another ACL, like, you can still play, right? Like, it is what it is, or Achilles. But when you have neck injuries, man, that could be very dangerous. And I just think the Giants would be insane not to move on from Jones. I think he'll be on the roster next year. I don't know if they will Alex Smith him or if he's going to be the league's most expensive backup, whatever. But, I can't see a scenario where the Giants don't take a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, if they do get a quarterback, I do feel like there is also a path out for Jones. Because, I mean, considering the state of quarterback play in this league and some of the guys he's starting on Sunday, if the Giants take some of that money, if they could find a team to trade Jones too if they wanted to.
Yeah, if a team's willing to take that chance. I think if like Pat Shermer was a head coach somewhere, I think you'd have a chance at that. I don't know who would take the chance on Jones with that salary, and who says, yeah, we're a quarterback away. Oddly enough, there is a team in the Meadowlands that could feel that way. I don't see that happening between those two franchises. So I think the best fit for Daniel Jones might be the New York Jets. But, that'll never happen. So
yeah, that definitely won't here. Another guy whose future we have the question here is Saquon Barkley as well, because we had animosity over the summer about how the Giants didn't want to give him the long-term contract. He had the very brief holdout before he comes back here. Now he's been hurt again. He's had issues with the coaches on the sideline now. Like, this feels like a situation where the Giants say, okay, Saquon, thank you for your contributions. It's time to move on here because we don't want to pay you at a point where we're going to really sort of rebuild again.
I think they have to be nuts to let him go. And I really believe that. I've been saying that all year. without him, they are nothing on offense. And if you're going to bring a young quarterback in here, look, we've been trying to fix the line for 10, 12 years, and we can't, okay? So, look, maybe it magically gets better next year if we draft a quarterback and we can bring in free agents and draft a lineman high in the second round and maybe the third round. And, God, if they took 5 linemen in this draft, I wouldn't blame them. But if you're going to tell me that you're going to bring in a young quarterback and then let go of Barkley and get rid of the best weapon, I think it's crazy. I think if you can keep him in that 14, 15 million range, I think you do it. He's dynamic. He's all they have on offense right now. And if you add him with a young rookie quarterback, he could really help. Add another weapon at receiver and shore up the line. He could be so much better. So he's the franchise right now to me. I love Saquon Barkley. I don't want to see him go anywhere. I mean, the only thing is, like, for his own career, if he went somewhere else like the Bills and won a Super Bowl, you'd be very happy for him. But look, man, I am steadfast in this. I've said it all year long. I think you do everything you can to keep Barkley within reason. I think you'd have to be out of your mind to get rid of him.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there here. And obviously, like, this year's obviously very frustrating because we thought that, okay, like, this is step one. They're going to be at least in the mix of the playoffs again this year. And then we see it sort of reverted back to the form we've seen the last 6-7 years, where I think the 6 times 7 years they're 2-7 or worse at this point of the season here. So, how much work do you feel like needs to be done for this franchise to really become the consistent contender, just turn it around and get out of this bad cycle they've been in?
Yeah, I fall into the trap all the time of comparing years to old years, right? Like last year, I thought that was like 1984 for us. Like, we were a little ahead of schedule. It was kind of out of nowhere. And we made the playoffs, and we're only going to build on this now. We've got the coach. All we're going to do is build on it. And obviously what happened has happened. So what has to happen is they need to find a right tackle, because unless the Giants hire a new offensive line coach and he gets through to Evan Neal, I just think Evan Neal's broken. I mean, it's not a sense of, like, it's not a matter of, like, he can't block anymore. It's like he doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. So you have to fix the right tackle position. You have to basically get the Andrew Thomas version over there. And then the rest of the line, I just think, will fall in place. I like John Michael Schmidt. And then whether you keep Bredesen, you give McKesson or Azudu another year to kind of find their game. And, I just think that right tackle position is absolutely huge. It's not going to fix everything, but it's going to fix so much on the offensive line. But what has to be done is, there's got to be changes made. Unfortunately, it's a very stale organization right now, and we're back to, it's back to feeling like it's Joe Judge, Shermer, and McAdoo, and it's really not. I don't think it is. I think Dable can do this, and he did do it, right? He made the playoffs in his first year, so you just have to shore up that offensive line for, like, the last time. You got to figure it out, man. You got to do everything you can to figure it out.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that here in terms of the offensive line. I also feel like they need more playmakers on offense too, because apart from Saquon, I mean, Darren Waller got hurt, and, like, the receivers are all okay. They don't really have that one go-to guy, I think, to really break the game open.
I just think if you fix the line, though, that stuff kind of works itself out. I'm not saying they don't need a number one. They do. I think Jalen Hyatt can be like a 1A. No one, DeVito underthrew him the other day. Like, this kid can burn people down the field, and I think he can get better. I mean, I don't know if he can be a 1, but he's going to be a very solid. I don't even call him a 2. I could call him a 1A. I want to see more of that kid. They got to get the ball in that kid's hands. But yeah, of course they need playmakers. Like Darren Waller is Darren. The Raiders traded him for a reason, right? Like, we were all excited about him. Chris would report at camp how much he's burning everyone and how great he looks. And the season starts, he's got a hamstring injury. So, they definitely need more playmakers, but the offensive line is it's so critical for the future of this franchise to be successful, especially the offense.
Yeah, for sure here. And obviously we have a question here with, obviously, Joe Shane's situation here as well, because obviously this is his second year on the job, and I feel like they've been mixed bag and sort of like what he's brought in, because obviously we've seen flashes of Kayvon Thibodeau, how good he can be. We've seen Deontay Banks, some of the young corners look good. Evan Neal's an unquestioned miss here. Do you trust Joe Shane's ability to pick the right guys to turn this team around?
Yeah, I mean, based on what he's done so far, yes. I mean, look, you got Thibodeau. Wan'Dale Robinson's been pretty exciting. Again, another guy who needs someone on the outside to kind of open things up in the middle for him. I mean, they're throwing him screen passes, and he's getting destroyed because there's no blocking, right? But this kid can be useful. I like the Zudu right before he went down. I think McKesson's a decent late-round pick. Second round, John Michael Schmitz has been a good pick. Jalen Hyatt's exciting. Like, he's done a lot better than his predecessor, man. I mean, you look no further than the 2021 draft to really understand why this franchise is in the shape it's in. You traded down and took Tony when Parsons or Slater were there. Then you took Azeez Ojulari, who just cannot get on the field, and when he does, he's okay. Then you have Aaron Robinson, who is not good and doesn't play. Ellerson Smith's off the team. Rodarius Williams is off the team. And Gary Brightwell does nothing. I mean, you're talking about almost a miss in every single round, short of Azeez Ojulari. And that's why this franchise is the way it is.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, the Jet side, I'm a Jet fan myself here. I've seen it with the Mike McTaggart stuff where he had just drafts and drafts of nothing contributing here. And
right.
You got like a nice parting gift with Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence on the Giants side and Quentin Williams on the Jet side. But like apart from that, like it's hard to go 5 years like basically no contributors from drafts.
Yeah, and the other two first-round picks in the Dexter Lawrence one were Daniel Jones and DeAndre Baker. So, I mean, Baker was nothing. He's gone. He was terrible. And Jones is what he is. We've waited 5 years, and now it looks like we're moving on. I'm trying to think who else was in that 2019 draft. I think Darius Slayton, he was a nice pick, but not, he's not a game breaker, right? I mean, Darius Slayton's a fourth receiver on most teams, unfortunately. Or a third, right? Like at best. So, the Gettleman drafts, the free agency, it was amazing looking back that they made the playoffs last year. Now, the Giants did a lot of wrong things this year, but, I have faith in Joe Shannon. And look, man, Evan Neal was he was a consensus best tackle in the draft with Ekwonu, right? So it's not like he picked him out of the sky. This kid was rumored to be the first overall pick to be protecting Trevor Lawrence's blind side. So the fact that he's not anywhere near that player tells me that this could be a coaching issue and that, the Giants should probably look to move on from Bobby Johnson if I were them.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, you mentioned here we got 7 weeks left for the Giants. You still haven't had their bye week, which is a blessing for the Giants fans. I don't have to watch them that week, but their schedule down the stretch. I mean, there are a couple of games that look like they're not impossible for them here, but there are some that just look very, very bad. Like, how many more games do you think this team can realistically win? Keep in mind, we know that we have at least Tommy DeVito for a while until maybe you get lucky, get Tyrod Taylor off IR down the stretch.
With Tommy DeVito, I don't think they're going to win a game. And it's not a shot at Tommy DeVito. He's a free agent, quarterback from college. If you bring in Tyrod Taylor, I think they win 2 at most. So at most, this is a 4-win team. I don't think Tyrod Taylor will play again. I think they will ride this out with Tommy DeVito. The only games I'm looking at that they can win, possibly, combination of the Patriots, the Packers, and maybe the Rams, but I don't think they're going to beat the Rams. I mean, they always beat Washington, but they're not going to win this week. It's because, Tommy DeVito, they're not going to win a game with Tommy DeVito playing quarterback. It is what it is. So I think at most 2, more likely 0.
Yeah, I think for Giant fans, your whole season right now is that is that the Sunday after Thanksgiving against New England here, because whoever loses that game is probably in a prime position to be a top 2 pick, considering if you feel like Arizona's probably going to win a few more games now, Kyler Murray back.
Yeah, and the Patriots need a quarterback too. But look, here's the other thing. And here's what no one's talking about. Like, you've got a whole slew of other quarterbacks in this draft, like Penix, Bo Nix, the kid from LSU. I'm missing a few that are going to rise as they do every single year. Richardson of Florida is a prime example of someone who rocketed up the draft list towards the last few months, especially after the combine. So there's going to be guys that rise up, and I'm not saying the Giants are going to take one of them if they have 1 or 2. All I'm saying is, like, if the Patriots are picking 4th or 5th, I wouldn't be surprised if they took McCarthy or Bo Nix or someone like that. I mean, these guys are all going to. You could have 4 or 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10 this year. So my point is, like, yes, we're playing for position to get Caleb Williams or Drake May, but I'm just telling you right now, and it happens every single year, other quarterbacks will rise up and all of a sudden be like top 10, top 15 picks. I mean, Mac Jones is a great example of that. Now, Patriots made the wrong move there, but they're going to be in the market for a quarterback too. So I'm just saying, like, that's going to happen again.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm just speaking from my experience in the Jets side of things here, where like if you don't get if you win that extra game you don't want to win, and like I say this is a fan problem, not a player problem, because the players and coaches want to win every week. So like that's something like an organizational philosophy situation here, where if you get that extra win and you get pushed down to like 5 instead of 2, and you want to go get one of the big guys that costs you a lot of draft capital get up there, whereas if you lose that game, you're sitting in the right spot.
Yeah, the only thing I agree, but there is one caveat, and that's the Chase Young Bowl. Like, who would you rather have, Chase Young or Andrew Thomas, right? Like, and so that does happen. These guys are not sure things as much as we all think they are now. So, but I hear what you're saying. If the Giants are taking their next quarterback, they want to be in the 1 or 2 hole to do that, and I would think they'd take the other of Caleb Williams or Drake May. I mean, I think that's the case. I don't know. Yeah,
because, I mean, also Jet fan experience here, like, one tackle from the punter in 2021 is the difference between Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson being on the Jets.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But, if you had Justin Fields, you guys would be in a much better spot, right? Like, it's and again, Zach Wilson, another guy who seemed to rise when he threw in shorts. Like, that's what I mean. Like, there's guys that do that, and these teams fall in love with them, and then all of a sudden, they're a top 5 pick. So, but I get your point.
Yeah, I would also feel confident, I'm a Giant fan, that like Shane and Dable know how to evaluate quarterback, considering they did good work with Josh Allen in Buffalo here. I mean, like, right. I don't think we'll have a situation where we're taking a test for C.J. Stroud and saying we can't take him because of that. I think the Giants look at the tape.
Yeah, and that's another thing, right? Like the Bills moved. I know that Shane wasn't the GM then, but he was involved in the organization. They moved up from, I think, 12 to 6 that draft. Now they had there's 5 teams in front of them. Like they didn't. I want to say they kind of got a little lucky waiting and then taking Josh Allen, because who went ahead of him was what? It was Mayfield, and then Darnold went 3, and then you didn't know what the other teams were going to do. You didn't think they were going quarterback. So I don't know if the Bills knew that they were going to get Josh Allen. Like, if they knew the 5 teams, the only certainty in that draft was Saquon Barkley was going 2 overall. So you just have to wonder, like, is Shane looking at it the same way? Like, if I'm picking 5th, who's going to be there? Is Bo Nix or Penix and I'm just throwing names out, McCarthy worth that 5th pick to him? I don't know. So,
yeah, it'll be a lot of fun conversation when we get to January. We have the draft in front of us, but we got to get through a couple more weeks here. And Jerry, thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. People want to follow you guys on social media, keep up with your coverage of the Giants. How can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike. At Giant Insider on Twitter. That's mostly Chris tweeting because he's always at the facility. And then we have a YouTube channel, The Giant Insider, that we have a lot of stuff on now. And we're on every podcast platform imaginable, Giant Insider Podcast. So thanks, man.
All right. Thanks again for all the time. Really appreciate it.
All right, bud.